had to describe Simply Saucer with a genre tag, I guess I would make one up like space punk or proto-acid punk or something like that. But even that I don't think really does them justice.
We have had the label proto-punk applied to us, you know.
Pretty equal parts sort of Syd Barrett's Pink Floyd and Velvet Underground and the Pink Fairies.
Well, Ray Davies was my idol, really. The Kinks were my favorite band. But I had grown up with a lot of music in my home.
My standard three were like Jack Bruce and John Entwistle and Paul McCartney.
They were ahead of their time and didn't find that place where people appreciated them.
We certainly were a curious sounding band, I think, for the average listener back then.
The story of Simply Saucer is an interesting one. I mean, from what I can tell, they were some sort of revved up youngsters, all pals in their little town of Hamilton, Ontario.
We were essentially a three-piece band with John on the synthesizer, adding those textures and sounds.
Recorded basically in the studio a album side's worth of tracks, recorded some more live songs, I believe with a young Daniel Lanois and his brother, who now does like Neil Young and stuff like that.
Back in '74, we did that as something that we could present to people to hire us. But we didn't do it necessarily with the intent of having it pressed and distributed as a record. We did it as a means of getting our foot in the door with promoters and what have you. So we made the tape and it sort of languished.
Hamilton did have a punk scene. They weren't punk enough to really be on those bills that they ended up on, and people were just shaking their heads, you know, like, what the hell is this?
We were not exactly playing the kind of music that anybody was hiring.
It's the mid-70s Canada. Nobody cared. There was total indifference. People wanted just like disco and pop stuff at the time.
The band crashed and burned, and there were a lot of kind of lives that were in pieces.
Recordings never saw the light of day. Edgar moved on.
Hamilton is a steel city, we call it. It's a steel making center. Not so much now, but it was back then. And I ended up in the coke ovens at Stelco Works, which was like the biggest steel company in the city.
Seemed like he was kind of putting it behind him, and then this reissue / first issue really kind of came out in the early to mid 90s there, and I think like a lot of people like me who were into like crazy psychedelic music kind of lost their shit over.
When it really started happening, the band had been defunct for about 10 years.
It was almost like the whole musical past, my past, it was all gone.
What else can you think when you start getting a lot of feedback about something you did so many years ago? It was almost like, you know, people were catching on to it, or the music had, you know, in the intervening years, there was so much that had happened that people were listening to it with more receptive ears.
I had to think it through, you know, but it was jarring because it was like an intrusion, you know, when it came, and when it did come out, it was almost immediate. Like there was kind of a critical acclaim for it.
There is a high level of playing. You can hear it.
My style had been kind of frozen since the 70s as an electric guitar player.
And, you know, Edgar can just shred, and I think there's also like, you know, there's sort of something for everything. There's songs that are completely experimental, you know, just fueled by weird electronic blips, and then there are songs where like, this is a catchy song, like this is a really well-written song. The lyrics are like self-depreciating and great and operate on a few different levels, and I just think it's all there, you know.
It's interesting to see their resurgence. Finally, people are paying attention.
I mean, if you had asked me in the 80s or early 90s, would I ever sing these songs again, I probably would have said no, because I couldn't wrap my head around the songs. And I thought, well, that was then and this is now, and that was him and this is me, right?
In Hamilton now, there's a lot of awesome music happening, and they regard Edgar as royalty in the Hamilton music scene, and are also kind of like, I can't believe this came out of Hamilton.
I work at McMaster University in Hamilton, and I'm running into a lot of young people who are familiar with us.
There's been like 2 LP reissues since, there's been singles.
In 2014, we released the Baby Nova EP. That's like a re-recording of a few tracks that you can find on Cyborgs Revisited, which everyone should own.
People have definitely come calling for him since, and I say rightfully so. You know, they wrote great songs, they pushed the borders experimentally of music. The stuff's really well recorded, they're great players, and it's some mind-blowing stuff.
Thank you, Chicago. That's right.